earlier they were talking about swamp sat, and I said something, well, what vehicle is it going up on? And nobody seemed to know. And it reminded me of something we always say as rocket guys, and that is, we don't need those stinking payloads. Well, I thought that'd be a good way to introduce myself to a bunch of satellite people. But I spent most of my career, and I spent all of my career basically based out of Kennedy Space Center. It was my second career. My first career was in academia. I came here in 1969. I know exactly the moment I became a Gator. Reeves to Alvarez, third play of the game, first game of the 1969 football season. I became a Gator. And there's no cure. I'm 60 plus years old. I'll be 61 soon. And I'm still a kid, a freshman Gator at heart. And I can't tell you how excited I am to be back here. The last time I was in the classroom here was 1980. And I was in the math department. It was the end of my 11-year. I like to think of. I always tell people I went to Florida 11 years and 10 as a freshman, but that's not exactly true. What I wanted to do tonight was kind of give you an idea of engineering in the workplace, as opposed to that you get a really good overview in school of all the principles and the theory and the applications and the problem solving and all of those things. But in industry, we take all of that training that you've had and kind of put you into specific types of jobs depending on the project that you get assigned to and the phase that that project is in. So I'm going to talk to you tonight a little bit about as if it was a large project. I'm pretty familiar with those. I worked a lot of very large projects, multi-billion-dollar projects that have all the phases. I'm going to hit it very high level. I'm going to brush through it. I put a piece of paper in front of you if you want to take some notes. The purpose of what I'm trying to do tonight is to give you some ideas of exactly what kinds of things are in some of the job requisitions that you're going to be looking at, and to give you an idea of the kinds of opportunities there are for not just engineers. I'm a mathematician, okay? And I had some of the best fun that you could ever have. We always say, what could be better than living at the beach and launching rockets, okay? But, so I kind of want to run you through the development phase of a major program and kind of the different elements of engineering that go along with that development phase. So you get an idea then that when you look at that requisition and it says they're looking for a mechanical background, but they're looking for a test engineer, or they're looking for a systems engineer, or they're looking for a manufacturing engineer, what do those guys do and what part of the program is the prime part of their program? Some of it's a dead giveaway, some of it's not, okay? The first thing I'd like to talk about is this mission definition part. That's probably the most critical part of the project. If you don't define the mission correctly, and if you don't define it concisely, you have a real problem. One of the things that I got, most of my career was human space flight, okay, either space station or space shuttle or the next potential human space flight vehicle or spacecraft. So a lot of the things that we did had a lot of deep and lengthy requirements, and then sometimes I felt like NASA had a tendency to over-specify up front as opposed to giving broad brush requirements and letting the engineers and the Imagineers kind of run wild. My specialty is that part of the operation that occurs after build, okay? It was my job to see that the hardware got to the launch site, that it got integrated with the ground system, that the ground system that we had prepared was indeed compatible and ready to launch that vehicle, and then to put the vehicle together and through its paces to make sure it was ready to fly, load it, and launch it. It still gives me goosebumps. I don't think, to be honest with you, I've worked yet in my life. I've just had fun. And hopefully, I'm hoping for each of you that that's the same thing. I'm here tonight because I'm trying to encourage young people to follow along. You have an opportunity to do the exact same thing at the high school level, and even at the junior high or your friends' It's nice to see as many women here, okay? But we did a lot of things at Lockheed Martin and at Boeing and all the other companies to encourage young people into what we call STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. So that's a little bit why I'm here. That's not necessary. You guys probably are so buried into it already. There's no turning back, and I hope I don't discourage you. So this mission definition part with the top level requirements, let's talk about, for example, I always like to use the Mars mission. Okay, let's go to Mars. What are we going to do there? How are we going to get there? When are we going to go? How much do we have? In the 80s, we did a lot of analysis on human spaceflight initiative, is what we called it. And we determined that that mission to Mars would probably cost about $10 billion, one mission. I don't know if you know NASA's budget, but NASA's budget at the time was about $11.5 billion, okay? So we looked at that and said, that ain't gonna happen. That's just never gonna happen, not at these costs, okay? So a lot of us got hung up in or caught up in trying to bring that cost, shuttle cost was like $400 million a flight. If you flew a full-fledged payload on a Delta rocket or an Atlas rocket, you're looking at $100 million minimum to get off the ground. Elon Musk is trying to do his part on the Falcon rocket to bring that down. But our goal in the 80s and early 90s was to try to bring that down to 1/10 of what we were currently spending. Because until we found a way to get that low Earth orbit access down to where it was affordable and achievable and regular, there was no way we were ever going to get that mission to Mars. So out of that came things like X-33 and Venture Star and Delta Clipper and some of these other startup activities that were meant to do things at a much lower cost and try to get the ground system. We spend lots of money on facilities that never fly, and we spend a lot of money on people that never leave the Earth. So the issue is, how do you get the number of people down, the number of facilities down, the number of cost investment, how do you get that investment down so that you can actually fly for the price that we can actually perform that mission? I got a little confused around the turn of the century, and somebody decided we were going to go to Mars, and I still don't know how we're going to afford it. But so if you think we're dragging our feet a little bit, I think we're still waiting on that major breakthrough that takes us away from launching a rocket that's 98% fuel and 2% payload, right? So as we go through, what happens is that what companies are looking for is an edge, okay? Something new, something different, something better, okay? So there is a group of people in the corporations or a group of people in any company that do research and development. And their purpose is to invent, to innovate, and to imagine, and come up with ideas that are actually doable. We had, and a bunch of you probably seen the license plate frames in Central Florida that said Space Shuttle Team doing what others dream. I had one that said Advanced Programs Team dreaming what no one can do. But the point is, unless you have some outlandish ideas, unless you push the envelope, people don't come up with ways to go do it. So science fiction to me is always the next generation of where we're headed. So these inventors, imaginers, and innovators are the ones that basically put out new products, new capabilities, new techniques, and it's up to the rest of us then to find a practical application for that, or help them find that practical application. So now that I have something new and different, and in the case of the major aerospace corporations, I've got a government customer who's interested in purchasing something new and different that I can provide. I'm going to spend some time with the government in what's called the acquisition phase, and try to help them define what it is they really want and shape it so that what they end up asking for is what I have, okay? So we start with top level requirements, and then like if you're talking about going to Mars, I want to go to Mars, I want to take people to Mars, I want to be there in so many months, I want to stay there so many months, and I want to bring them back, okay? That's probably the hard one. I think we could do it right now if people were volunteering not to come back. But I'm not going to do that even at my age. So the next thing is, okay, now that we know what we want to do, how are we going to go do that? This architecture definition phase, it was, some of you might read it in history books, there's a bunch of activities called Space Transportation Architecture Studies. There's probably 3 generations of that. I worked on all 3. And it was basically, okay, how do we get this mass that we want to get out to Mars? How do we get it into low Earth orbit? How many rockets is it going to take? What are those rockets going to look like? What's that manned launch going to be? How are we going to make that, how are we going to put it together, and how are we going to make it go? Okay. Personally, if I go to Mars, I want to go into Winnebago. I don't want to go into VW Bug. Okay. So there's a lot of stuff to be brought up, and it's not going to probably happen in a single launch unless we have a really huge vehicle, which we don't have, but we're looking at, okay? So this architecture definition becomes an important part. You talk about the flight segment, the ground segment to support it, and then how are you going to operate this thing, both the flight, the ground, and the mission, okay? And out of that, you start putting together some system requirements. What do I mean by system? I mean the overall system. Okay, how do I collect stuff to make the spacecraft and make the rocket? What is the collection of capabilities that I need to have in it? So I'm talking system requirements, not system specifications, okay? I need to be able to support human life for 6 months. That's a system requirement. How I go do that and the kinds of things that I put together, that becomes a specification. But the requirement itself is the thing that you want to get nailed down and understand right away. After you get some system requirements and you know exactly what it is you want to put together, then it's time to start looking at concepts. And this is the part I call cartooning. Okay, I'm a great cartoonist. Okay, I do cartoons of launch systems on the ground and the ground system. I do big picture stuff. That's what I'm telling you, there's not enough of that around. Okay, there's the big picture is what we put detail on. Okay, and without that, you don't have a goal, an end, or a vision. Okay. So then, now the next thing is we've figured out how we're going to do this. We've got some concepts in mind, and we know how much we're going to have to spend, and we kind of have an idea how long it's going to take us to do it. So now the government spends some time in interacting with industry and builds what we call an acquisition strategy. Okay, how are we going to go out and bid these pieces? Which pieces are we going to offer up for bid? Which pieces are we going to build as the government? Okay, and when are we going to release those competition pieces of paper, those requests for proposals, and how much is going to be in each one? And, you know, at that point in time, the guys in the smoke-filled room are kind of saying, well, you know, Lockheed can do this, and Tyco can do this, and Boeing can do this, and these guys are good at that. So they're making sure that there's going to be somebody out there that's going to respond, okay? And at that same time that the government's doing that, the contractors are out there looking at, okay, how am I going to go respond to this? Do I want to go in and bring in some teammates? Do I Lockheed Martin want to team up with Boeing and shut everybody out? Do I want to team up with Orbital Sciences because they have a certain skill that I don't have that augments my capability, my probability to win? Because if I don't win, it's all for nothing. Okay? Who am I going to subcontract to? Who do I want to build my electronic boxes? Do I want Honeywell down in Clearwater to do that? Or do I want another electronics provider out in the Midwest to do that, or in California? Who's going to give me the stuff that I need? Who do I know? Who do I have relationships with? Who have I worked with? What suppliers am I going to use to get the metal and the materials? And am I going to make this stuff, or am I going to buy it? So all that part there is in this up front, and who's participating in that? Everybody. The business guys are participating, okay? You guys have learned to love them, okay? At that point, you're blessed. HR's not there unless you do something wrong. There's system engineers, there's test engineers, there's operations engineers, there's human factors. There's every discipline is involved in that upfront place, but at a level that you can afford. So who are they? They're your A team. They're the guys that've been there, done that, understand That's kind of a privilege to be part of that early planning part, and you kind of earn your way into that. Sometimes you get thrust into it, and you learn your way into it, okay? But that's that section, and that's probably where I would say system engineering, which is the guys over here that do the systems requirements, the systems analysis, the trade studies. Do I want to go hypergol, or do I want to lock hydrogen or do I want to go magnet drive, or do I want to use electronics, okay? The systems integration, how do I put all those subsystems together? And the system allocations, which guy gets to spend how much, and which guy gets to weigh how much, okay? And so all that goes out there. I know what my total weight has to be. I know what my thrust capability has to be. I'm going to allocate out to the subsystems weights and capabilities, okay? That's a system engineer. That's a great job. It's the job for mechanicals, electricals, aerospace. Depends on what the mission is. Mathematicians, okay, make great systems engineers, because that's that big picture piece. How do I put this whole thing together, okay? We clear on that a little bit? So if you see a rec that says I'm looking for a system engineer, that's a paper engineer, okay? And that's not a negative, but that's a guy who spends a lot of time grinding out a lot of stuff for people to work to, okay? Then we go through the acquisition phase. The government writes a request for proposal. The contractor writes a proposal. And if you win, you get to negotiate, and the government gets to tell you what parts they liked, what parts they didn't like, how much they want to spend, how much you told them you were going to cost. And sometimes, as an engineer, you get to participate in that negotiation phase, because what's happened now is the stuff that you put in the proposal, that's all well and good, but I really don't like that. I wanted it to be blue. So now you got to go back and figure out, okay, how I'm going to make it blue, okay? And what's it going to cost to make that change? Then the next phase after you've won is you start actually into what we call detailed design. You've done concept studies, you've done configuration definition, you're kind of into that phase B part now. We always call phase A concept, and phase B was development, design, and CD was manufacturing and operation, okay? So this next part, the detailed design, that's where the guys sit down and really start to grind out piece by piece by piece, part by part by part, each individual element within that overall system at the detailed level. These guys, the design engineers, are cathode ray drivers, okay? They basically spend their entire career on a CAD system, okay? That's not to say they don't talk to anybody, because if they don't, that's not going to work. But their job is mostly at that CAD station, grinding out details and detailed design. They're doing configuration refinement. They're also working through the system and subsystem requirements. They're getting some stuff from other people. They're getting design 2 requirements from the manufacturing guys. They're getting design 2 requirements from the operations guys. They're getting design 2 allocations from reliability experts. They're getting maintainability design 2 requirements. It doesn't do any good to build the perfect widget if you can't, or to design the perfect widget if you can't build it, assemble it, test it, operate, and use it. Okay? It just doesn't matter. And one of the guys I was talking to earlier, he was talking about a guy who was designing great parts, but even this guy here knew you couldn't build it. Okay? And so there's some there's some practical experience that really comes to bear from those people who are out in the field doing the work. So never be surprised that if a technician comes in and what he has is certs to torque and solder and those kinds of things, he's a hands-on guy. Don't be surprised he doesn't know more than you do, okay? And never look at that guy and think that he's not going to be a valuable part of your team, okay? Because he's the one in the end that's going to make the dang thing work, okay? So the next group of people that get their hands on this stuff after design is the people who are actually going to manufacture the things. And we call those manufacturing engineers, okay? And what do they do? Well, this designer put together all these glorious design drawings, okay? All these great parts, right? All these little itty bitty brackets, right? How do you put it together? What are you going to do to put it together? What kind of fasteners, all the things, all the steps, all the requirements, all the planning to go build the next level assembly comes from the manufacturing engineer and the manufacturing plan, the manufacturing procedure. And you all have done this. How many of you have bought a kit from Home Depot or Sears or a model shop, right? What's it come with? It does not come with design drawings. It comes with manufacturing drawings, assembly drawings, right? And assembly instructions. Who did that? A manufacturing engineer, okay? My other great example is you buy a lawnmower. You don't have to put the lawnmower together, but you get something with it. What do you get? What?
User's manual.
Operations manual. Who did that? Operations engineer, okay? There's a long way from that system requirement and that design drawing to the field where you actually make the thing work. And that's what I'm trying to get across to you. So who are the people that do the steps along the way? Manufacturing guys do the manufacturing, okay? They're not sitting there waiting on something to come to them. The big group is doing that, but a few people have been in the design process all along, okay? That team that's doing that integrated design process is including some people from each of those phases. So as the phases change, the level of number of people that are in that phase changes. As the design is done, the design engineers go off and design something else. A few people stick around because something's going to break and we need a designer to tell us how to fix it, okay? But the whole team's not going to be there. When we get to manufacturing, that manufacturing engineering group all of a sudden swells, okay? And they come in and they do that piece. They may be sitting in the same factory and you may be sending them different things to build, but that's their job, to build it, okay? The next step then is assembly and test. And that means building up the sub-assemblies, the final assemblies, and figuring out how to verify that what was designed and what was built is actually per the spec that was required, okay? But you don't just hand it over to the test guy. The test guys, some of them have been there all along. They've been developing test plans and test requirements and verification plans right along with the design team. But at some point, it becomes their job to test and verify that it's ready to go do the job it's supposed to do. And it's done piecemeal. An electrical box may be checked out by itself. Does this box do what it was designed to do? Okay. A mechanical system may be an aileron or a moving piece, an aeromechanical piece. You might check that out by itself before it gets assembled into the next higher assembly. Okay. But the planning and the preparation and how you're going to do that, that's test engineering. Okay. The last group of guys is my guys. Okay, now it's built, it's tested, we know what it's going to do. It's surprising how much the guy at the end has to work with the guy at the beginning up front to make sure that what we're going to build, we know how to operate. Okay, all that great stuff that gets designed still has to work. So the operations guys go out and they do. How are we going to get it ready to fly? What are the requirements? What are the procedures? What are we going to give to the technicians out in the field to make it work? All right. And the last part then, and I put it down here, and it's not fair because these guys do an awful lot of great work. The reliability, maintainability, and quality engineering guys that do the distribution of mean time, that understand mean time between failure, understand, especially in a reusable system like an aircraft, how many missions can this piece perform? Is this a time-limited piece, or is this a cycle-limited piece? what is the amount of time that's available, what's the mean time before it's going to break. So what's my maintenance plan on when it needs to be removed and replaced. And okay, designer, I know this is going to break, and you just buried it 3 levels deep, and now I got to get it out and get it in. So maybe we ought to take another look at where you have that, unless we can reevaluate that design. And so that's happening all along too. You are never going to be there by yourself, I hope. Okay, you're always going to be part of a larger team of people with a lot of different skills and a completely different perspective of what it is you're working on. And it's that collection of perspectives and that collection of talents that you want to go get as good as you can, because you only got so much money, and bring that together and listen and work and go spin out what it is that you want to go do. And you can do it right now in your small set. Okay? This is applicable to any project, any product from an engineering perspective. And I didn't tell you much about my career, so if you guys have any questions about that, I'll take some questions. Hopefully I hit something at a level that wasn't too high or too low. I don't know my audience here, so if you're bored to death, hope you had a good nap. Any questions? Yeah.
How did you pick up the engineering stuff? Because you were a math major?
Mm-hmm.
So how did you, like, get into
Hiring. Let's talk about that. You know, everybody has a capability. Okay, like I said, I'm a little bit better at the bigger picture vision. So that was part of my part of the team. I'm the guy that understands what facilities are required and how to make them the minimum that you have, because that investment never flies. You never make money on the ground. It really wasn't that hard, because I never really worked at the detail level, okay, per se. But that's that systems level, okay? So the mathematician is a perfect fit at the systems level, okay, for example. Let's talk a little bit, I should have said this, let's talk a little bit about job requirement, okay? Because I've done it from the other side. And I'm here to tell you that it is one of the harder things to do as a hiring manager is to figure out, how do I get the best talent, okay? And in addition, every time, because of the job situation, on the other side, you're looking at a guy or a group of guys who might get 150 applications for a single position. What do you do with that? You certainly can't interview 150 people, okay? There's just not enough time to do that. But if you don't have a reason not to interview somebody, and you're on a government contract, you're liable. So we're looking for reasons not to interview you. Pure and simple. So we put together a job description, and we say, here are the things, and you guys are going to be looking at mostly entry-level jobs because you don't have a lot of experience. You've got your design teams and the things that you do. This is a great activity. Going to the center is another great activity. Going to Goddard is a good activity. It's getting out there and getting a broader perspective. Understanding what, if a guy asks for a test engineer, having a little idea what that is and whether or not that interests you, that helps. But let's talk about finding that first job. In my mind, there are 2 major factors on that. And one is, where do you want to live? What do you want to do? Figure that out, okay? And then start looking for opportunities. And I wouldn't necessarily pick Apopka, Florida, okay? I mean, I would pick, I want to live in the southeast, okay? I would be very general about that. Or I really want to get out of this heat and humidity. I want to be in Colorado, okay? Or whatever. But think about where you want to be, okay? And think about what it is you want to do. What do you want to work on? Do you want to work on airplanes? Do you want to work on the next fastest computer? Do you want to work on rockets? Do you want to work on payloads? Do you want to work on railroads? Whatever. What do you want to do? Do you really like the degree you have? Is it really, I mean, now that you've done and finished, is that what you want to do the rest of your life? Doesn't matter. Figure that out. Get to know who you are and what you want, okay? Then start your job search by looking for companies that fit your needs. They're in the right area, they have the right kinds of projects, they have the right kinds of opportunities, and then go to their website, like you probably already have, and look at what availability they have for what we call them fresh outs, we call them first opportunity, we call them entry level, we call them labor grade 0. But that you can identify when you go to Lockheed Martin or Boeing or Orbital or any of the other companies, you can easily identify the requisitions that are there, the job requisitions that are there that you're qualified for, okay? Then take a look at what that requisition really says, okay? Every one of us, because we're under such scrutiny, write a set of required capabilities or required skills, okay? Required. And then we write a set of desired skills, desired capabilities. Why are we doing that? Because if you don't meet it, that's one we don't have to deal with. Plain and simple. And not only that, it's absolutely justifiable when HR comes by and says, why didn't you interview this guy? I said, well, he didn't meet the requirements. Show me. It's right here. I had a guy that worked with me, and I'd give him the recs and the applications, and he would score them. Absolutely numerical scoring. Okay? And what he did then was, those required skills, those are go, no go. That's either yes or no. Now, I've had cases where nobody had all of them. So it became who came closest, okay? Or how many had 3 out of 5 or whatever. But I'm going to set the bar high enough to where I have something I can cull the group with, okay? The next set is the desired skills, and then so that gets the numerical scores, 10, 9, 8, whatever. And not only that, but in a trade study, we might weight those desired skills. This skill is a 10, this skill is a 5. We really got to have this. We don't have to have that, but we'd like to have it, okay? My contention is, if you spend all your time coming up with a beautiful resume, and you send that resume to 100 places for employment, you have a better opportunity at Home Depot in the parking lot putting your resume under windshield wipers. Fact. So be specific about the job that you're looking for. And what I would suggest to you now is to start with your own biography. Okay? The summer jobs you've had, the things that you've gone and done. Write it down and keep a log. Keep a biography. I don't care if it's 35 pages long. Keep a log of the experiences that you've had, the things that you think were valuable along the way, and keep that for you. And when it comes time to go apply for that dream job that you just found at the place you want to be and the job you want to do, and it says I need these skills, go back and find in your history something relevant to those skills and make sure that it's in the front of your resume or your cover letter so it can't be missed. You just made the first gate. Because if you don't get an interview, you don't get a job. Is that clear? I'm telling you like it is. Okay? Now, the good news is there ain't enough of you for all the jobs we have. Okay? So as bleak as I may sound, there's something out there for every one of you. Guaranteed. Okay? This economy is going to turn around. You're going to help it turn around. Okay? You need to be out there with the good jobs, not with the service jobs, paying the high taxes. Okay? And get this economy moving again. You are the engine and the engineer in the country.
So work hard, study hard, be the best you can be, have a great time. There's no better time in your life than next year and the year after. And focus on a little bit of your time. Where do you want to go? What do you want to do? And build and take that time outside of your normal classroom activities to build your own personal history, all your attributes. Now, I hired a guy one time because he was a mechanic in the Army. I didn't hire him to work on Jeeps. I hired him as a cryogenics engineer. Because I had the world's best cryogenics engineers. And every one of them were not happy until they had grease up to here. They wanted to be out there in the field. They wanted to be beating on the pipes and doing the work. It was hard to get them cleaned up. Okay. But to get somebody that as those guys were aging and their knowledge was walking towards the door, I wanted somebody in their pocket that at least had the aptitude and the capability to communicate with this bunch of ruffians. Pad rats, we call them. So you never know what it is about your past that is going to come through. I hired a guy one time because he had his own roofing business. I thought, well, gee whiz, if he's got that much energy and that much, fortitude, he's at least got business sense. We can make something out of him. Okay. You have all the training you need. You don't know anything about what it is you're going to go do when you get hired. We will train you. You have proven you're trainable. You have proven that you are committed, that you have the drive to finish. Okay? And we want you. I'm sorry I'm retired. But I would do anything I can to help any gator get the job they want. Any questions? Yeah.
So I've heard a lot of advice in the past about how to get a job with NASA or someone in the space industry, but it's usually kind of broad. And I was wondering what advice you'd give to someone who is looking at something more specific within the space industry, such as working at a specific NASA center or working on a specific NASA program or something like that.
Well, if you want to work at Goddard, Goddard has a website. And where was Hubble made? Anybody know? Goddard. Okay. So the thing to do then is to find out what those people are up to. Each of the NASA centers has a niche. Kennedy's a launch center. Marshall's a propulsion center. Johnson's human space flight. Goddard is satellites and spacecraft. Okay. Lewis is propellant development, propulsion development. Lewis is the old. Lewis is Glenn. I'm sorry, Glenn Cleveland. My age is showing. I'm going to start dying this, by the way. And believe me, I reverted back to my old self. I had a little bit more corporate appearance a few months ago. Okay. But I'm enjoying I'm enjoying my freedom. So go look at what that center does. Okay. Don't go to Goddard to be able to, unless you want to go to like Wallops. Okay. Wallops is a great place to do like innovative launch stuff. Okay. And Wallops is a great place. So focus on the center. If you want to be a NASA employee, focus on the center that has the research and development. In my mind, that's all NASA should do is R&D. Us dumb contractors can build trucks. Okay, so find that center that does the kinds of things you want to be involved in, and then go find out what it is they're up to, and find out what their opportunities are, and start going. Just go visit them. Okay, get in there, talk to their outreach people, contact their HR people, find their job opportunities that are open for fresh outs, and go do it. Okay, if you really want to be there, and NASA's not hiring, We may be in a situation over the next few years where we're going to attrit all the government employees, and we're not going to replace them, okay, because we have more than, you've heard this. If you find yourself in a situation where they're not hiring, who are their favorite contractors? Who's been there for a long time doing the kinds of things? Who's supporting the R&D from a contractor perspective? And go to that contractor site and find out who their key people are, what their key interests are, and what their opportunities are, and start focusing your job search right there. I mean, it's not rocket science, right?
Right.
But if I told my daughter, if you never date a poor guy, you'll never marry a poor guy. Right? So if you're looking for something, make sure you're looking, don't look someplace else. But let me also say something. Every now and then you get lucky. Okay? Day one at the University of Florida, I was an aerospace engineer because I grew up in Orlando watching Saturn launches. And I wanted to be that. And I also wanted to be a jet fighter pilot. Okay. I lasted in aerospace about a week. I was in Air Force ROTC. It was 1969. It was clear the only thing they were going to let me fly was helicopters in Southeast Asia. And to be honest with you, it just didn't appeal. So I became a hippie. Sorry. So the next thing I did after that was, okay, I set the curve in general chemistry for 3 out of 4 terms. I'm a chemistry major. I took organic, I flunked it. I fell in love with that term, and it wasn't with chemistry. So then I became a math major because I still was doing okay in math, but to be honest with you, I had to drop multivariate calculus because I was flunking it. I never did learn that until I taught it. True story. It was a first grade class, I just couldn't get there. But so a lot of that, so then I take a job at Cambry River, right? And I've got one of these girls' aunts over here living with me. And her father calls up and says, you have an awful lot of education to make pittance of money to make. And I'm like, yeah, I really don't want to do this that much more. I'm thinking about trying to do some. I did my research in infinite dimensional space. There wasn't a lot of application for that in industry. So he said, hey, Martin Marietta's hiring in Colorado. And I'm like, I want to come home. I'm living proof that you cannot turn a gator into an iguana. They had water out there, but they built monuments to it. And there was a beach, but the ocean was 300 miles away. So this guy, out of the goodness of his heart, got me an interview at Kennedy Space Center. Changed my life. But you know what? I was right where I was trying to get to 10 years before, 20 years before. What's the point of that? You can focus as hard as you want on something, but if you turn down one opportunity because it's not exactly what you were looking for, you may miss it up. So, we are the product of our decisions, and we are the product of where we decided to go. Anything else? That was a long answer, huh?